Hey everybody, I'm John Swantek. Welcome to this week's edition of Match Play on PGA TOUR.com, and it's a rematch. So let's get to it. We welcome back Len Shapiro from the Global Golf Post, the author of the recently released book Golf List Mania, and the PGA Tour Network's Brian Katrek, the host of Teed Off weekday mornings on SiriusXM Radio. Katrek with a one-up victory over Shapiro in their last encounter, and Brian has the honor for topic number one with his PGA Championship victory last weekend in Atlanta and an earlier win at the Byron Nelson. Keegan Bradley becomes the fifth player with multiple victories this year. Katrek, which of those five has the best chance to win the FedEx Cup?
Well, I think I got to go Steve Stricker. First of all, he's got a couple of big wins this year, and mostly because he's been there before. It was Stricker knocking on the door when Tiger won. It was Stricker knocking on the door when DJ won. We don't know what FedEx Cup playoff experience is worth yet because we're still figuring all that out, and I think it's different than NFL playoff experience or NBA playoff experience, but if there's a guy that knows what playoff experience is worth, it's got to be Steve Stricker. He seems to have the most of it. He seems to always be on that list of guys who can win the FedEx Cup with a win at the Tour Championship, and I don't think this year will be any different.
So Brian Katrek is going with Mr. September in the playoffs. Len, who are you going with?
I'm going to go with Nick Watney, who has played very well this year, obviously has 2 wins. I just love the way the guy plays. The other choices would be Bradley, who just won the PGA Championship, Bubba Watson and Mark Wilson. But I'll take Watney. He's been consistent all season. In addition to his 2 wins, he's had a bunch of top 10s. That would be my choice.
Great year for Watney, his best, the winner against the World Golf Championship field at Doral, but hard to dispute Steve Stricker's prowess in the playoffs over the last 4 years. Let's give topic number one to Katrek, and he's got a one-up advantage. Len gets the first swing at topic number 2. The playoffs for the FedEx Cup begin next week at the Barclays. Which player outside the top 125 in the point standings right now and in this week's field at the Wyndham Championship has the best chance to make the playoffs, Len, and perhaps make a deep run in the postseason?
Well, I'm going to go with number 146 on the list. That's a little deep. Bob Estes, who played brilliantly, I thought, the Greenbrier Classic a couple of weeks ago in West Virginia. Estes played great, wound up losing in a playoff, but I'll take him as sort of a sleeper pick as a guy. There's some big names in that list. Justin Leonard, Sean McKeel, Retief Goosen. I'll stick with Bob Estes.
Interesting case made for Bob Estes there. Was in a playoff of the Greenbrier a couple of weeks ago. Katrek still got some big names to work with outside that top 125.
That was thought-provoking logic. I'm going with Ernie Els, simply because Ernie Els ought to be in the top 125. The fact that he isn't is a bit baffling. Here's a guy that should be able to buckle down. I know Sedgefield's a Donald Ross, and he's a guy that has overpowered golf courses in the past. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think it's something he has to do. And again, it becomes about experience. I think Els is not going to panic about his position in FedEx Cup points. I'm looking at Ernie Els.
Ernie Els, certainly the bigger name. Bob Estes, you could make the case, as Len did, that he's in better form. I'm going to have topic number 2, and we'll go to topic number 3 now. We'll go to Katrek. Which tour player without a victory this year, Brian, is most likely to break through, win in the playoffs, and maybe advance all the way to the Tour Championship?
I'm going to take a page out of Camilo Villegas' book. Camilo Villegas wins for the first time a couple of years ago at the BMW Championship. He won for the second time in his PGA Tour career the very next week at the Tour Championship. How about another guy that a lot of people have been waiting for that first win to come, and a guy that I talked to earlier in the week, Ricky Fowler. He seems to knock on the door every week. He plays better in the big events. This is only his second season, and we have already seen that you can win for the first time in the playoffs. As a matter of fact, you can go back-to-back. If there's going to be a guy that hasn't done it before, that we're looking to do it now, I got to go Ricky Fowler.
All right, so Katrek going with last year's Rookie of the Year, Ricky Fowler, still looking for that first victory. Len, who do you have in mind?
Well, I'm going to go a little provincial on you guys. I'm going to stick with my local hero in Washington, Steve Marino, who is 33rd on that list. Does not have a win, obviously, but has come very close several times, both this year and in past years. I think he's due for a breakthrough, and I'll stick with the local boy making good, Steve Marino.
Terrific start to the season for Marino, who is in contention at the Sony, but he's been quiet for several months. Hard to go against Fowler, who's been good in big events this year. Could break through in the playoffs, as Katrek pointed out, like Villegas did a few years back. So let's give topic number 3 to Brian Katrek, who takes down Len Shapiro once again in this week's edition of Match Play. Thank you, gentlemen. It was well played.